Can you guys see everything okay? So I've got a big list of things. This is going to go really fast though. I'm going to start with some general lab policies. It's pretty standard stuff like no food and drink, no shoes. We do need a TA to be in the lab while we're working in there, which is everyone right now who is part of the club anyway, which is pretty convenient. We have a couple rooms that we use in the kind of general lab area, which is there's a main lab, a closet, 2 back lab rooms, and then there's a flame hood room that we can use occasionally. Everything else is just stay out of it. And then, yeah, so some of the COVID specific things, the limits are 8 people in the front lab, 1 person in the closet unless you really need to lift something heavy, 2 people in the back lab with the laser cutter in it, and then 1 person in the synth room. We're just disinfecting everything before and after we use it. And then if you have your own safety glasses, that's great. If not, we have some to use. Just again, disinfect them before and after. Respirators are the one thing that we can't disinfect. So we're just putting dates on those, and then no one else will use those for a week. These are things to look for next time you're in the lab. We've got 3 fire extinguishers. The safety glass cabinet is in the main part of the lab. We've got a first aid kit in our closet. And then there's a flame cabinet in our closet as well, which is where we keep some of our chemicals and flammable items. We've got safety glasses, gloves, and respirators available in the lab. And then again, this is just standard stuff. We've got a good amount of hand tools in our closet, as well as some power tools. If you haven't used a tool before, definitely ask for help. We've got a ton of people around who will be happy to help you. And just be aware of where everything is, and common sense whenever anything is powered. As I mentioned, the first aid kit is in the closet. If you walk into the closet and turn left, you'll see it hanging up on the wall, and it's pretty standard stuff. If it's something that you can't handle yourself, the number for NUPD is also hanging up in the closet as you walk in on the left. We've got 3 fire extinguishers in our lab. There's 1 in the laser cutter room, 1 in the main lab, and then 1 in the fume hood room. Emergency exits. This is pretty straightforward if you're in there, but it's just out the nearest exit. And then this item, we want to make it, you want to be able to navigate in case something happens. So the big one where this could become an issue is our closet, where there's a lot of stuff in there, and we just want, a good rule of thumb is you want space for a firefighter to turn around if they need to. A safety data sheet is basically just a piece of paper that tells you everything you need to know about a hazardous material. So it'll include things like what PPE you need to use and what you can't mix it with. So if you're working with something you haven't worked with before and it seems hazardous, just look up your SDS and make sure you're wearing all the PPE that you need for it. For if you are working with something that needs to be in a ventilated area, the 2 options are A, work outside, or B, for some things we can work in that fume hood. And then as I mentioned, the flame cabinet is where we keep any chemicals or temporary storage of rocket motors and black powder. Carbon fiber and fiberglass are both fantastic materials. They're super light and super strong, but they're also super dangerous, or they can be. When you cut them, it will actually turn into shards, which can go into your lungs and basically wreak havoc. So 100% wear a respirator and gloves and safety goggles every time you're cutting any fiberglass or carbon fiber, and work in an area away from other people. When you're done cutting, there will still be shards on your surfaces, so just wipe down everything that could have been touched with a damp cloth with water or alcohol. And then make sure you're not exposing them to heat or electricity. LiPos, again, fantastic batteries, very power dense, but can be dangerous in the wrong circumstances. They've been known to explode or catch fire. There's a specific LiPo charger that you want to use when you're charging them, and that will make sure that will limit the risk of them catching fire while charging. You also want to look out for swollen LiPos, just because that's a risk factor of that might be the next one to explode. We have a couple fireproof bags, which is where we store all our LiPos. So just in case anything happens, it's contained within the bag. And then we also have some really nice machines in our lab. And then we have machines trainings, which are what you need before to make sure that you know how to use them safely. So these are being run by Becky, who's our lab manager, and then the lab techs, one of them, Scott. So all these machines, the printers, the laser cutter, the laser, all that stuff, don't use it if you haven't been trained. And if you have been trained, remember what you've learned, look at your SOPs. If you're going to an event where you're testing something, basically the idea is you just want to put a plan in place beforehand so that in case anything happens, you know how to handle it. So a big one is put someone in charge to make final safety calls and then listen to them. Make sure that your test site has been approved with the people who own it beforehand, and bring all the safety equipment that you might possibly need in case something goes wrong. For rocket launches specifically, there's someone called the Range Safety Officer. The RSO is basically an external final safety call. They'll look at your rockets before they fly, and they'll also be the ones kind of running the launch. They might also ask you to pay attention to a heads-up flight, which is basically just anything flying that could be more dangerous or maybe it's coming close to the area where people are. So always listen for that and stay out of places where you shouldn't be. And then this is just, I want to stress that I'm not here to give you all these rules. I'm just here to keep you safe. So if anything feels off, I want you to tell me, because usually it's a systematic issue, not just an issue of the people. So by telling us, we can figure out why it happened and then make sure nobody does it in the future. Yeah, so Scott's mentioned this. The two things are, you've sat through this presentation now and you've agreed to what I say, I assume. And then the 3 or 2 trainings through BioRef before you work in the lab.
All right, cool. Thank you. So yeah, if you ever have any questions about that, the presentation should be available in the drive, or you can ask anyone. You can obviously ask Emma, or you could ask your mentor, or you can ask me, or a variety of other people. Most club veterans are familiar with, well, should be familiar with everything in there. Yeah, if you ever find yourself in a situation that you're unsure of what to do, just always ask questions. All right.